to be a woman? What does it mean to be a girl? Does it mean we can dream and imagine? Does it mean we can nurture and love? Does it mean we can learn and grow? Does being a woman mean different things in different parts of the world? Who do I want to be? What do I want to do? What obstacles stand in my way? And who supports what I want to become? When I choose what to do, will I be accepted and celebrated? Can I choose what I want to do? And most importantly, what resources do I have? Come join me and we can explore Women's History Month and inspirational women together.
What would you do if one day someone decided that girls aren't allowed to go to school anymore? If girls can't go to school, how will we grow up to become doctors or scientists or whatever we dream of being? Malala Yousafzai grew up in a place where girls were sometimes banned from going to school. She knew that wasn't fair and has been working hard to make sure girls can get an education. When she was 16 years old, she addressed the United Nations and said, "We cannot all succeed when half of us are held back." That really sums it up, doesn't it? We cannot all succeed when half of us are held back.
My personal hero is my older and wiser sister, Angela. She has been my guide through life. She's helped me when I struggled with reading, like in this adorable picture you can see here. And later in life, she helped me enroll in college. If that wasn't enough, she's also a labor and delivery nurse. And frequently when we're out, someone will come up and thank her for being so nurturing during their stressful delivery. Amazing woman. A famous female who inspires me is Miss Dolly Parton. She's best known as a country singer. But she is an inspiring, multifaceted artist. She is a musician, actress, writer, comedian, style icon, and so much more. She has always inspired me because she is not afraid to be herself. One of my favorite quotes is, "If your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader." Dolly Parton is also a strong businesswoman. She started her own publishing company and made her own record label. She said, "I think it's important, if you can, to keep all of your goods close to home where you can control them and know what's happening with them." Amazing. Dolly also uses her fame to help those in need. She was inspired by her father's inability to read and write, so she created the Imagination Library in 1995 for children within her home county. Today, her program spans 5 countries and gives over 1 million free books each month to children around the world. Amazing woman.
Did you know?
Did you know that pink used to be for boys and blue was for girls?
In fact, the Earnshaw's infants department described pink as more decided and strong.
While blue is considered more delicate, dainty, and prettier for girls.
Today, you can wear any color you want.
My mom is my inspiration. She immigrated to America in 1975 after the Vietnam War. Here in America, she started her own tailoring business. Growing up, I watched my mom do business in spite of her limited English. My mom discovered that tailoring wasn't as common in America, and she discovered that her business was hard to maintain. This is her piece of advice. We have 2 hands, and so each hand should have their own skill. Always have a backup plan. Her new plan was to learn how to solder and make gauges for airplanes. She began working in an airplane manufacturing company and continued building her skills. Now, she works in Bombardier and helps build huge airplanes in a massive facility. She has much more job security than she did when she was a tailor. My mom taught me that a woman's hands can work on a variety of materials. My sister learned this lesson as well. My sister is now a resident surgeon, and instead of sewing fabric like my mom, she's sewing skin. There are many examples of women who are good with their hands. For example, Anna White is also a woman who is good with her hands. She posts 3D diagrams of woodworking patterns online. Anna White has a great website that anyone can access to learn how to build furniture. She also uses Google SketchUp to design her own models, and you can use your computer to rotate and interact with the diagrams. She is even a published author. You can check out her book at the Fort Worth Public Library. It is called Hand Built Home: 34 simple, stylish, and budget-friendly woodworking projects for every room. Women all over the world have capable hands. What can your hands do?
Do you recognize this caller? I'm dressed up as Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was a lawyer who advocated for gender equality and women's rights. She won many arguments before the Supreme Court and eventually joined it as the second woman in U.S. history to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. She once said, "Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception." Thanks for setting such a great example of this, RBG.
I have two heroes that I want to share with you today who inspire me with their creativity and kindness. She's sometimes outlandish, but always speaks from her heart. You might have guessed already from what I'm wearing that I'm talking about Lady Gaga. She inspires me with her creative music, creative costuming, and messages of hope in songs like Born This Way and Rain on Me. She's had to work hard her entire life to get where she is today. She started off her career at age 13 by writing a piano ballad and then holding her first performance in a New York nightclub at age 14. Since then, she's released 6 studio albums, won 9 Grammy Awards, 2 Golden Globes, an Academy Award, and hundreds of other awards. Lady Gaga has persevered to greatness, and her hard work inspires me to be the best that I can and live as my true self. More personal to me is another great woman who inspires me. This person is Heather Gibbons. She's a fabric store owner in Indiana, fabric designer, quilt designer, national instructor, artist, art educator, and best of all, my friend. I first met her in person when she came to Fort Worth and taught a sewing class. The best way I can describe her personality is if you were to bottle rainbows and sunshine in human form, you would have Heather. She started off as an elementary art teacher, which has helped her become a great teacher and mentor. She inspires me to be creative and create with love, to always do my best work, but also realize that imperfections in my quilting are what make handmade items so special.
Did you know that in 1938, a kindergarten teacher named Helen Hulick was a witness to a burglary, and when she went to give her testimony in court, the judge sent her home just because she was wearing slacks, and he ordered her to wear a dress next time. They rescheduled her testimony twice because when she came back, she still wore slacks, so the judge sent her to jail for 5 days. Nowadays, thankfully, most people don't punish women for wearing pants if we want to, but it has certainly taken a long time to get here.
Let's shine a spotlight on an influential woman from history, Jackie Cochran. What I find most inspiring about her is her ability to reinvent herself over and over again. If the situation didn't work for her, she changed the situation, and in doing so, changed the world for every woman after her. She was born so poor that she had no shoes, but went on to be a millionaire, decorated military pilot, business owner, and holds more records in aviation than anyone, living or dead. She was the first woman to fly a jet across the Atlantic and the first woman to break the sound barrier. She helped create and lead the Women's Air Force Service pilots, and Jackie never let others dictate her path. She was a force to be reckoned with all her life. She passed away in 1980, but made her mark in history. Right here in Fort Worth, we have one of her planes. Let's hear from the Vintage Flying Museum as they tell us about it.
The airplane behind me is a 1954 Beechcraft Model 18. They're used both in the military as well as civilian use. So this airplane was mainly used in civilian life. and the plan is to restore it to flyable condition to where we can fly it to different events and air shows, and we'll be able to tell Jackie Cochran's story, the story of the Women's Air Force Service pilots, and the role that women have played in aviation from the very beginning of flight on through today, where here we have the next the mission to Mars has an equal number of women on it as there is men. So the women in aviation have come a long way, and they're going to keep going a long way. And that's what we're going to use this airplane to do, is to help tell that story and encourage young ladies to reach for the stars and keep going.
For Women's History Month, I'd like to discuss two women who've broken barriers and are inspirations to me. So let's begin with my Aunt Brandy. My Aunt Brandy was a very responsible and dependable kid and began taking care of me and her other nieces and nephews at a very young age. She was only 7 years old when she became my aunt. My aunt lived in a house with me and 10 other family members, so she took advantage of any moments of silence to bury her head in books and study, even when there was nothing to study for. But I was always a good niece. I never bothered her when she was doing her homework. When Brandy got to high school, her hard work and goal setting paid off, because that's where she became Queen of the World. Well, to me, she was Queen of the World. She was actually awarded the title of the first African American valedictorian of her school district, or the smartest kid at her whole school. Brandy is now a chemical engineer and has traveled the world making products that you and I use at home. When Brandy left for college, I inherited her room and all the cool things she left behind. During my exploration, I came across shelves of books, cool formal dresses that I couldn't wait to play in, and even a cache of collectible Barbies. Barbie dolls were created over 60 years ago by a mom named Ruth Handler. Ruth Handler got the idea to invent a 3D fashion doll when she noticed her daughter playing with paper dolls and noticed that the clothing of the dolls were constantly falling off. She found it extremely unique that her daughter used her imagination to pretend that the dolls were women with many different roles and jobs. Ruth then created the very first doll and named the doll Barbie after her daughter Barbara. In the 1950s, women didn't hold executive or decision-making positions in big businesses. However, Ruth Handler broke barriers and became the president of the biggest toy company in the world. Ruth Handler used her influence to create Barbies that were images of women all over the world. And today, Barbie has over 200 jobs, many of those being in STEM, 35 different skin tones, 94 hairstyles representing different cultures, and different body shapes and sizes. My Aunt Brandy and Ruth Handler overcame many obstacles. What barriers will you break?
It's time for Shakespeare Says.
And though she be but little, she is fierce.
This has been Shakespeare Says.
I first heard about a lady named Reshma Sujani from a TED Talk, and I read her book, Brave Not Perfect, last year. She shared stories and statistics about how girls are usually taught to avoid risk, while boys tend to be rewarded for it, and that how even though girls and boys are equally smart, far fewer girls grow up to work in science, technology, engineering, or math. She founded Girls Who Code, starting with just 20 girls, and it's become a worldwide organization teaching girls computer programming, robotics, and web design. Her goal is for there to be just as many women as there are men working at and leading STEM companies. We can't be what we can't see, and she's doing important work to change the image of what a programmer looks like. In addition to all her work to close the gender gap in technology, I'm also inspired by how outspoken she is. Sometimes it's hard for me to find my voice and speak up about things that are important to me, so I admire how she uses her platform to amplify the achievements of girls of all ages. And speaking of women who amplify, someone else who inspires me is my friend Rita. She's the music librarian for the Fort Worth Public Library, and before that you may have met her at the Seminary South Branch. She's working hard to build the Amplify 817 program, which showcases local musicians. Not only is she setting up lots of musical performances, she's also planning other music programs and services, so maybe one day you'll be able to borrow instruments from the library. Besides being a hard worker, she's also caring, supportive, a good friend, and creative. Here's a picture from when she dressed up as Pete the Cat. She loves Pete the Cat because he's a musical cat who's cool, which is how I would also describe Rita. And like Rejma, Rita also cares deeply about education. She used to teach music lessons for middle school and high school students, and she loves learning. Let me give you some advice. Find yourself some friends who love learning because you will never be bored. And if they also help you to be brave, well, there's just no stopping you.
Now, let's hear from another amazing woman who was courageous, creative, and never let challenges stop her. She's a small business owner, house flipper, and owner of her own construction company. Han Trin, welcome!
So, it's so good to have you with us. Can you tell us your story?
Yeah, I got started in construction or building my, flipping houses and fix them up because I own a restaurant for like 17 years in California. But one day I went to work and I just could not walk. For some reason, my back just stopped. And it took me like 45 minutes to walk maybe 5 steps. And so I realized, I have to do something else, which is really interesting because construction is really hard work. But I don't really do the work. I design the plans. I pick the colors. I figure out the bedrooms. I figure out the bathrooms. I move things to make like the house flow. So, because with if you own a restaurant, it's very involved. It's like you have to be there early. You have to buy everything. Your hands have to touch everything. Whereas with with construction, you have so many aspects of it. So when I sold my restaurant in California, I sold it to my workers, and then I started doing things full time here, and things have been going pretty well. It has its ups and downs, but everything does, I guess.
That's really amazing that you've had all these different businesses and all of that cool stuff. So what is it like managing your own team and being your own boss? What's that like?
I really like it because, a lot of people, they're kind of miserable at work. So I've always thought that if I own something, I would always be there on the job site. I would always be very involved because whatever I do, I want to make sure that it's beneficial and it makes sense to everybody, and it doesn't only make sense on paper. I like to do things hands-on. That's why I like. Sometimes when I go and I look for a tile in a bathroom, I might go to the store like 6 times because, the lighting at the store is different. You take it home and then your bathroom lights look different. The tile, it's a process, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it because everything is different. Every job is different. So,
how did you get started with your own business?
I think my mother, she's always been a business person as well. Like most parents, they want you to be a doctor, but that my grades weren't going to make that as a doctor. So, I never had any interest in being a doctor, and I was really bad at sitting in class and following the teachers and doing things, So I started having my own business since I was like in my early 20s. So I actually haven't worked for anyone since I was like a good 21 years old. So I've always worked for myself.
That's amazing. So you were mentioning a couple of influential women in your life who inspired you, but can you tell us a little bit more about some of the people who inspire you?
First off, it was my mother because, I grew up in Vietnam, or I was born in Vietnam. She was always, she came from very humble beginnings. She lived in her family lived in the jungle, and I'm talking about the jungle. There's no electricity. There's no roads. There's nothing. And so there wasn't even a school. So in order for her to go to school, her dad had to let her live with relatives. So she's always been into business. But my mom is just shoot for the stars, go as high as you can. And if you fail, it's okay, So.
Great advice. Thank you so much. This is
all right. Thanks. All right. Thanks, Olivia. I appreciate your time.
Did you know?
You've seen them on Cinderella, and you've seen them on Wobbling Babies. You've seen them on Dorothy, and on the feet of Russian ladies. But did you know heel shoes were originally made for men? Men wore heel shoes to show that they were wealthy, to keep them falling from a horse, and to make them a couple inches taller.
This is my mom, Dr. Michelle Barrett. She is the most inspirational woman I know. She is a professor of pediatrics, which means that she is both a doctor and a teacher, and she cares a lot for her patients and her students. She's also the mother of 5 kids and provided us with lots of love and support while we were growing up. She still provides us with lots of love and support, even though technically we're all grown up. She does things that are outside of her comfort zone, like traveling alone to visit me when I was living in Thailand, or jumping into the Arctic Sea. Brrr. What I admire most about my mom is her patience, empathy, and the way that she makes time for other people. She inspires me to be a good friend and to support others even when it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. A famous woman who inspires me is poet and activist Amanda Gorman. She viewed her childhood speech impediment as a strength and a gift, and now performs her amazing poems as well as writing them. She was inspired to become a youth delegate to the United Nations at age 16 and became our nation's first youth poet laureate at age 19. She inspires me because she has turned challenges into opportunities and because her writing makes me want to be a better person. I recommend reading her recent poem, The Hill We Climb.
And now, an inspiring quote from an amazing professional tennis player, Serena Williams. The success of every woman should be the inspiration to another. We should raise each other up. Make sure you are very courageous, be strong, be extremely kind, and above all, be humble.
Thank you for joining us as we reflect on important women throughout history and to each of us personally. However, remember that the celebration doesn't stop here. You can always check out books either digitally using the Overdrive or Libby app. You can also use our convenient curbside pickup as well for titles like the Who Was series of biographies. Or She Persisted, 13 American Women Who Changed the World by Chelsea Clinton. Throughout American history, there's always been women who have spoken out for what's right, even when they have to fight to be heard. Amina's Voice by Hannah Khan. A Pakistani-American Muslim girl struggles to stay true to her family's vibrant culture while also blending in at school. Front Desk by Kelly Yang. Mia Tang has a lot of secrets. It'll take all of Mia's courage, kindness, and hard work to get through this year. This year is historic because Kamala Harris became the first woman vice president in the United States. Check out the book Kamala Harris, Rooted in Justice from our collection. There are also some great websites to check out, such as rejectedprincesses.com. Here you can explore a series of women whose stories wouldn't make the cut for an animated kids movie, illustrated in contemporary animated styles. They also have published 2 books as well. If you're ready to get involved with other girl leaders like yourself, then check out the Girl Scouts of America. Girl Scouts unleash the girl, which stands for go-getter, innovator, risk-taker, and leader, in every girl, preparing her for a lifetime of leadership. If you think robotics is only for the boys, then think again. Anyone is welcome to create a team and compete in the first LEGO League. Check out their website for more information and how to take part. If you're looking to become an engineer, then check out engineergirl.org. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.